I'm on the final push to getting the interior done on my 240SX. Last week I got the delete panels back in the rear, which covers up a lot of the unsightly holes and things that are left over by the seats being gone. And I wrapped them in purple vinyl, which will also be the exterior color of this car. Now I can install these Street Faction door panels. These are really nice because they're made out of ABS plastic. And my favorite part is that they've got these cutouts for the OEM vents and door handles, as well as the window switches. And I went ahead and covered up the back of these with some lightweight foam, hopefully to keep them from sounding too tinny. I think it'll help the doors just feel a little bit solid and also deaden the sound a little. I didn't want to use real sound deadening because it's super heavy, so I'm hoping this will be a happy medium. I shoot most of my YouTube videos on the DJI Pocket 3, and it's just a really great versatile camera that's easy to use, and it looks pretty good. So that's kind of the perfect package for me. But one thing I've noticed is I can never seem to get quite close enough to something to show the detail. So I bought some macro lens for it. Let's see if this thing works. Oh my. That might be too macro. That's a lot of detail there. Let's see how much detail I can get on this door card. Oh wow, that's very macro. That might be a little bit too extreme for most cases, but it might come in handy every once in a while to show some details here and there. A lot of 90s Nissans had a problem with the door hinges sagging, and I'm sure any car that's 30 years old has that problem. You can hear it when you close the door. Right before that catch, it hits on the metal right where the door catch is. And you can tune these a little bit and raise the door to an extent, but eventually they just keep wearing over time and you can't go any further. Luckily, Nissan still makes these hinges brand new, and I got a set of them for about 200 bucks for all 4 of them, which isn't too bad. I wanna get these things fixed up and make the car feel a little bit nicer, you know, just all these little nicer and nicer things. Like I was talking about in the last video, refining little things until the car feels much nicer and not such a POS. So before I do the door panels, I'm gonna fix these really quick. This thing's pretty loose. I feel like even just getting this first one off and seeing how much it wiggles, probably a good idea to replace these. Over a 4-foot door, this much wiggle is probably 1/8 or even 1/4 of an inch. The new ones are very smooth and have absolutely zero play, let alone no squeaking. It's kind of a shame that nobody's ever gonna see these. I really like the gold zinc plating, looks sick, but so now I think the hard part is gonna be holding this door up while I tighten this. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So if you listen carefully, the door latch no longer hits on this piece of metal right here, which makes it quite a bit quieter. I mean, it's still a door closing, but it's not that dong sound that it made. It's also nice because the body line lines up a lot better now, that's for sure. Gotta pry these things off, basically. Those hinges are a pretty easy box to check, knock those out fast, but I can't seem to find the 4th one. It's got to be around here somewhere in these piles of parts. My garage is an absolute mess. Got to get all these back on the car so I can clean up the place a little bit. Next, I'm going to move on to some brand new door seals, so that should also help the car be a lot quieter. The door seals on this car have obviously seen better days. Most people probably wouldn't replace this stuff, but I found somebody on Facebook who was doing a group buy. He actually had these remade himself, sent some designs to China, and somebody with a gigantic machine, you know, squirted these things out. So that's really cool because, I mean, you can't get them anywhere else. So I just appreciate the fact that somebody went out of their way to redesign these and remake them. So that's really cool. I've mentioned this wireless follow focus tool on a previous video a few weeks ago, and it's really come in handy. I've used it quite a few times. It's easy to set up and it runs off of just the battery from the camera. My camera does have autofocus, but it's a RED and they don't spend a lot of time on the software for it, so it barely works. It's nowhere near as good as a Canon, and I don't really trust it, so it's nice to be able to use this device to rack focus and choose what I want to be in focus from a distance that I can't reach the camera. I'm definitely gonna make sure these door sills are nice and clean before I put the seals back on. A company called Geon sent me some detailing products and seems like it's working pretty good. Smells great too. I don't have all the seals for it, just the door seal. I don't actually have the one that goes all the way around where the window rolls up. But some of these down lower look like you could just replace them with something from Ace Hardware, so I might take a look next time I'm out. I might as well get these door sills really clean. I'm gonna try to wrap them when I wrap the car, just to make the wrap seem a little bit nicer. Kind of sucks when you open the door and the car's a different color. I just happened to get this little pry tool just in time. Never actually owned a proper tool like this before. Usually just use a screwdriver. Luckily the new ones come with brand new clips because some of these aren't going to come out very easily. Ooh, these are looking really nice. These ABS door panels have already been in the car before, so it'll be easy to put them back in. I did the same foam treatment on the back, but the vent was actually pretty broken on the passenger side, and I was able to find a used one that was intact on eBay. Window switch seems to be broken. I've replaced the window amp and done like the whole relay mod that you can do. It's very intermittent. The window will roll up and down sometimes on the passenger side and sometimes it won't. I definitely think it's this. I've tested the motor like countless times, so this will be the last try. Hopefully that fixes it. I'm not a huge fan of 3D printed stuff. I think it's great for prototyping things. Stuff has gotten a lot better, don't get me wrong, but it looks like this little tab here that holds the switch on broke at some point. I mean, obviously I broke it, but it shouldn't break that easily. So I'm gonna see if I can fix it with my plastic welder. All right, that was a pretty good reason to use the macro filter on the Pocket 3. The way the plastic welder works is it just creates a short with this little piece of metal, kind of like a toaster does to get really, really hot. And then that melts the plastic together and the element also stays in the plastic to give it extra rigidity. I stabbed 2 of those things in there and it looks like it's pretty dang solid now. The door panel uses these plastic inserts, which I think are just a replica of the OEM ones, but for whatever reason, the ones on the front of the door panel always pop out on both sides. So I'm gonna put a Rivnut in there and just use a screw for that. I'm sure all of you know what a Rivnut is, but if you don't, I wanna share this with you. It's a threaded insert that you use this tool with, and what you do is thread it on just like a rivet, and you put it inside a hole. When you clamp down on this, let's see if I can get it in focus there. Oh, noise. It squeezes whatever you just put it through, now becoming a threaded piece. So wherever you stuck this is now gonna have a perfect zinc plated thread. Dang it, I forgot to put the door pull through. Working on this side of the car is always kind of a pain up against the wall, especially because I've got these wheels on the side. Sometimes I'll take them off, but there's still these steel things sticking out. So the guys from the powder coat called me, said the parts are ready. I had a few things painted texture black. The main thing is the kick plates for the 240. It's all I really had done for that car. And then I had the air ride tank for the E30 painted, and also the valve cover, spare valve cover for this car, and the timing cover for this car. A few of these things are gonna be gotten to in the springtime when I'm done with the 240. I'm gonna do a full engine refresh on this car, and the E30 is gonna get a few things fixed with the air ride, but I haven't driven the Quattro in a while because it's been really nasty out and I've been having some problems with the alternator belt slipping. So the battery has been dying. I've been keeping the jump box in the trunk just in case, but it's finally a nice day out here in Portland, and yeah, the car seems to be running great now after I had it on the trickle charger. So as long as I can keep that battery up at around 12 or 13 volts, should be just fine. I spoke too soon. I should have known it was gonna rain. I've been kind of beating on the car pretty hard ever since I got back from Salt Lake City. There's gonna be a humongous undertaking of pulling the transmission off and doing the clutch and tearing down the entire motor. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna pull the motor completely out of the car yet, but it's gonna be a couple months of work on this, so gonna try to get it all squared away and running really good for the summer. I'm sure that time will start to wear thin, but I'm gonna try my best to get it all done before work starts getting busy again. Like I was saying before, only the kick plates are the parts that I got powder coated for the 240. And these things turned out really nice. I am so excited to put these in. The contrast with the black and the white is gonna look really good. Before, these were like a light silver powder coat, and the interior of the car was painted gray, so there wasn't much contrast there. It's actually the exact same color I had the entire subframe painted on the Quattro. It's kind of cool. Build a little bit of a relationship with those guys, so it's nice. You see that? You see how they don't go back down? A few episodes ago, I had mentioned that the wipers on this car would not go back to the auto return position and that the delay didn't work. What I eventually figured out is that the wiper amplifier was missing. It took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly what that looked like because there's a couple of versions depending on if you have S13 or S14. So hopefully this thing works. Let's plug it in. Before I put the dash back in and I was cleaning with the wire harness, I figured this all out and I kind of snaked the wire down here. All right, so it plugged in. That's good news. Turn the battery back on over here. All right, so they're on. Oh, it worked. All right, and how about the delay? So now it's the delay. Are they gonna go? Yes! All right, that was a super easy fix. Just had to figure out what was wrong. Before I get ahead of myself putting these seats back in today, I need to make sure that the air ride controller is all situated. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of an older controller. They covered it with this rubber coating from the late 2000s that a lot of German cars came with, and it felt really nice when it was brand new, but it turns into this rubbery goo after a while. So I'm trying to clean this thing up. I'm polishing the lens off a little bit. That way I can see the numbers really well. And I also need to double check that this thing still works with the power, because I cut a couple of wires going to the back of the trunk, and I know for sure one of them was the key-on power for the air ride. You can see the trunk is a pretty big mess right now, and I've kind of been leaving it like this on purpose because I want to do an entire episode on just cleaning this thing up. The air ride is pretty simple. You basically just have a tank that's full of air that's been pressurized by a pump, and it goes to a manifold, as you can see here. This manifold has 5 outlets, one for every single corner of the car, and then 1 outlet for the purge. And I like having these little filters on the purge because this lets the air out a little bit slower, which makes it easier for the computer to dial in the exact pressure, and it also makes the air ride a little bit quieter. So I kind of like it to be a little more incognito. All right, there it goes. So you can see there's no air in the front. The tank's got about 138 pounds in pressure, so I should be able to raise the front up a little bit. Now I can run that controller through the back up into where it was before. I had it placed nicely here above the roll cage, which is kind of cool. I don't really remember how I got this thing to stay up here. It was kind of just jammed in here, and now it doesn't really seem to be the same as it was before. So for now, I'm just gonna route the cable where it's supposed to go and attach it to the cage or to some of these screws. And this thing will have to just be kind of hanging down for a little while until I figure that out. Zip ties can seem kind of cheap and lazy, but they actually can look pretty good if you do it right, I think. This one has kind of like a porcupine quill where it goes in and can't come out of a hole, and then you zip tie whatever you need to it, kind of like an OEM would use. And then this one's got a little hole through it, and if you have a bolt sticking out like I do where the sunroof bolts in, has these extra long bolts coming out of it, you can put this through that bolt hole and zip tie a cable up and keep it out of the way, which I think is actually a pretty clean way of doing it. Of course, I'm gonna hide as much of this wire as possible under the delete panels. I can kind of sneak them through and it'll pretty much disappear just below this. I've been keeping these seats in my office nice and safe out of the garage so they don't get tipped over, but I'm a little bit nervous because these are definitely wider than the old seats. They seem like they're a lot taller. So I'm probably gonna run these brackets as low as they can possibly go. Maybe I'll just plop it in there and see how it all lines up. This part might hit the roll cage though. That's gonna suck. I'm just gonna leave everything really, really loose for now and kind of just work it in. I'm not even sure what direction the brackets on the seat are supposed to go because they're kind of like an inner and an outer. You could flip them. I've got the seat on the number 2 setting, which is the second from the lowest possible place to put it on this bracket. So hopefully that'll work out. You can do a lot of different things with these brackets, leaning the seat forward or back, depending on where you put those screws and which slots. So I kind of want to just get it sort of tight, sit in it, see how it feels, and hopefully my head doesn't hit the roll cage. First impression is, wow, these things look so sick. I don't really know how to describe it. They're very like skeletal. They're very, very minimal. It's so sick how you can see through into the back and into the delete panels back there. I just love it. It looks like it's some kind of thing just like strapped on a rocket ship ready to blast off. I'm getting pretty good at fishing this thing in and out. The good news is all the bolts pulls pretty much line up perfectly now, so that's great. Nothing is really in any different direction than it should be. Took quite a while to get them dialed in, and they're probably still not perfect. I might change them again after I drive the car, who knows. It just takes a really long time figuring out exactly where you want them, and with these, they almost didn't fit in the car with the cage. They're really close to the bottom floorboards. I even ended up bending part of the bracket to form better with the seat so that I could get the bracket lower, and I actually drilled some holes in the brackets to put the seats even lower than the slots that were drilled in the brackets. So I was a little bit worried about how close my head was to the roll cage, so I got those things down as far as they would possibly go, and it's a little bit better now. So we'll see when I get a chance to drive the car how it feels. They feel like they're about in the exact same place as my old Brids were, so I think I'm pretty happy with them. They look fantastic, so I'm definitely excited about how they look. I can't wait for people to start seeing these things and really appreciate how cool the carbon fiber is. Luckily for the rest of the video, I have some pretty easy stuff to wrap up. I got a new steering wheel from Grip Royal. This is the one that I ran in the car for about 6 years. I asked Scott to do something really cool for it. He took a wooden steering wheel and laser etched leopard print into the stain. So you can see the leopard print cutting through, showing the natural wood color. And the spokes are in penny, which is basically a bronze color. Love this steering wheel, but I've never had a suede steering wheel. So I hit those guys up again, asked them, what's your coolest suede steering wheel? They sent me this one called the Brute, and they kept it going with the leopard print. He even put my little motto here, check your polarizer. It's obviously a camera joke, but also, you know, check your polarizer in life. You know, think about the types of things that you're, that you're polarized to. But love those guys. They make a great steering wheel, and I really can't wait to drive this car with a suede one. Earlier I mentioned that I wanted to find some type of more permanent, more professional looking solution to attach my air ride controller to my roll cage. I got these rock light attachments for like your overlanding vehicle. And it's used to attach, you know, some type of fog light to a roll cage. So I ordered the 1.5 inch ones and they came pretty quick. So I'm gonna take this bracket off that you would normally attach the light to and just use this part that attaches to the roll cage, which will give me kind of a flat area. For now, I'm just gonna use some double stick tape to get the air ride controller to stick to this. I don't know if I wanna drill through it right away. There's not a lot of room for a bolt head on the inside of the air controller, so I'm worried it might get in the way of the motherboard in there. I don't wanna break that thing and, you know, bust off like a piece of solder or something like that. Hopefully that'll be enough to keep it stuck there for a long time. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good solution. The tape seems like it's gonna hold. We'll see. Once I start pushing all this stuff, maybe it'll fall off on a really hot day. If that happens, I think I'll just countersink a bolt. That way it's nice and flush on the inside, and that should be plenty. I think that's pretty much it for this week. So thanks for watching, and check your polarizer.